family moves into a remote, historic home in the Pacific Northwest, only to discover the previous owners didn't leave. They became part of the structure. The house, built over a forgotten Srayan shallow grave site, begins to warp reality through whispers from the walls and shifting unnatural shadows. The Miller family, Sarah, Mark, and 10-year-old Leo, thought they had found their dream home, a sprawling Victorian-era house in the desolate forests of Washington state, bought for a fraction of its value. The house was charming, with deep oak paneling and a large fireplace, but it felt heavy. The first week was quiet, save for the wind howling through the fir trees. Then the sounds began. It wasn't just the house settling, it was a rhythmic, wet, thumping sound that seemed to originate from inside the walls of the upstairs hallway, traveling down toward the cellar. Mark, a pragmatic city architect, dismissed it as old pipes or rodents. Sarah, however, found herself constantly tired, waking up with her throat dry and feeling like she was being watched by the very furniture. Leo stopped sleeping in his room, claiming the shadow man in his closet was growing fingers that reached out when the lights went off. The true nightmare began on a rainy Tuesday. Sarah was cleaning the basement, preparing the area for her art studio, when she found a small, rusted iron door hidden behind a rotting bookshelf. It wasn't on the blueprints. Against her better judgment, she pried it open. A stench, like wet earth and copper, filled the room. Inside, there were no treasures, only small, crudely carved wooden dolls, all missing their eyes. That night, the house truly awoke. At 3 a.m., the witching hour, the temperature in the house plunged. Sarah woke up, but she couldn't move. A classic case of sleep paralysis, or so she hoped. She saw her bedroom door slowly creep open. A figure, impossibly thin and tall, stood there. It wasn't a ghost. It was a patchwork of darkness, looking as if the shadows in the room had gained mass and intent. It moved, not walking, but flowing towards her bed. Down the hall, she heard Leo scream, a high-pitched sound that was suddenly cut short. Panic gave her strength, breaking the paralysis. She ran out into the hallway, but it was wrong. It was too long, stretching into an infinite dark tunnel. The walls were wet to the touch, pulsating like a giant buried heart. She found Mark standing in the doorway to the cellar, his back to her. "Mark," she screamed. He didn't move. She grabbed his shoulder and he crumbled. It wasn't Mark. It was a pile of dry brown leaves and old splintered wood arranged to look like a man. A voice, raspy and sounding like dry dirt, echoed around her. "You could never go back." She realized the previous owner, the one who went missing, as the locals whispered, wasn't just dead. The house consumed them. Sarah sprinted toward Leo's room, her heart hammering against her ribs. The door was ajar. Leo was gone. The closet door was open, the dark interior smelling of that same wet, earthy scent. She saw a small hand, pale and limp, disappear into the darkness. She never found them. The Millers, like those before them, became part of the house. Local authorities found the house abandoned, perfectly intact. The only thing they noted was that the house felt remarkably cold, even in the middle of summer, and that the shadows in the hallway seemed to move ever so slightly against the light. The house still sits in the woods of Washington waiting, and the new prospective buyers touring the home sometimes hear a tiny voice whispering from the walls, warning them to run.